Welcome to the Toddcast, your weekly leadership nudge. This is Todd Long, your host. Thank you again for listening. If you're expecting to hear more about the high five leadership concepts and ideas, I have to apologize. I decided to take a break from that this week because something more pressing was on my mind that I was thinking about, and that was the Artemis II journey to the moon. And I have to confess, when I first heard about this, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. It seems like we're shooting off rockets and spaceships all the time. I thought, well, it's just another spaceship that went off into space. I even sat by a gentleman on an airplane that was looking at the live footage of the spacecraft going around the moon. I looked at it casually and thought, well, that's kind of neat, but just kind of went on my way. Then earlier this week, I happened to watch a video of the press conference of the 4 astronauts. And I have to tell you, I was just deeply moved by the words that they expressed, by the way they interacted with each other, and by the way they shared their experience with the world. With that in mind, I wanted to take some time to just share with you my reflections on what that experience was, what they thought about that experience, what I thought about that experience, and then apply just share some leadership lessons that I took from it. And I want to share this with you as a framework for us to use as a way to think about leadership, where we can take an experience, an example, reflect on that, identify how that might apply to our lives, and then have conversations around that to help ourselves be more confident and discerning leaders. Let's make this happen. Welcome to the Toddcast, your weekly leadership nudge. Welcome to the Toddcast, great ideas you'll love. I want to start by just giving you some facts about the experience. There are 4 crew members involved in this. Reed Wiseman, he was the commander, a Navy veteran. Victor Glover was the pilot, and he'd had some experience in SpaceX crew and some other missions. Christina Cook was a mission specialist. She also had some previous space experience. And then Jeremy Hansen, a mission specialist from Canada. Those are the 4 crew members. Here's some facts about the experience. This crew included the first woman, first black astronaut, and first Canadian to travel outside the lower Earth orbit. That's pretty amazing. The duration of the trip lasted 10 days and covered 685,000 miles, and they went a maximum distance away from the Earth of 252,756 miles. That distance put them at a record distance from the Earth. They beat the Apollo 13 expedition by 4,111 miles. And this blows me away. The re-entry speed they predicted to be 25,000 miles per hour. I just can't even imagine the torque on your body going through that. Those are some facts about the experience, just to set the context for it. And here's what struck me. Most of this came from the news conference that I watched. And there are 4 things I want to share with you. First of all, how much this crew missed the Earth and the people they loved. The first words out of Reed Wiseman's mouth were really how much he cared for the Earth and how much he valued being back on Earth and the people he loved. I think about the mental, emotional, physical impact that this experience had on this crew members of being that far away from Earth and from people that they cared for. If we think about human development, we think about a child when they're first born, they bond to their parents. That's a significant part of their development. And then as that child grows, they learn to be farther away from their parents or their caregivers. And as we continue to mature and grow, we learn how to be farther away from people that we care for. And also in really healthy relationships, we recognize the value of coming back to those relationships. And the stronger we have those bonds we have with those key relationships, the more secure we feel about leaving and going away from those relationships. This particular crew, when they were away, that 250,000 miles, and then at one point, they were 40 minutes without any communication whatsoever to Earth, that radio silence. Now put yourself in that position, that far away from Earth, 4 people in a container without that contact. It just showed me how important human relationships are to our existence and our well-being. The second thing that struck me is the deep love that this crew had for one another. As I watched them on stage interact, I saw high fives, I saw hugs, I saw words of just encouragement and affirmation. I saw this close proximity with one another. They physically wanted to be close to each other. And I can imagine that For 2 years, this group has been preparing for this expedition. The time, the energy, the learning, the growth, the physical, mental, emotional challenges that prepared them for this, and then actually going through it, I can see why they would have this deep love. The other thing that struck me that demonstrated this deep love was at one point during the mission, they identified new craters on the moon. And Jeremy Hansen suggested that they call one of the craters Carol. Carol is the name of Commander Reed's wife who had passed away a few years ago. So in honor of her, he suggested that they name that crater after her. This shows a deep love and care. Third thing that struck me from this experience is just how in awe they were. At one point, one of the crew members described looking out the capsule window back at the tiny Earth, and it was just suspended in blackness, and how in awe he was. Last thing that struck me about this whole expedition was the thousands and thousands of people that were behind the scenes making this happen. I can't even imagine all the technology, wisdom, understanding, the knowledge that these people had to use to put together to make this mission possible. Their reputation, their career, their identity, who they were, was on the line also for the success of this launch and return back to Earth. I was talking to a guy named Kevin recently, and he talked about his team, and he used these words: "We're the invisible heroes." That's exactly what I would describe the thousands of people behind the scenes for this expedition, the invisible heroes. Those are the things that struck me. And as I reflected on this event, I asked myself this question: how does this event help me lead myself and others well? And there are 3 things that came to my mind. The first one is recognizing the power of the crew or the team. I know this lesson, I understand this lesson, but it just struck me at a deeper level in recognizing how important it is to have a strong, trusting, connected relationships with the people that we work with. And that takes time, that takes learning together, and it also actually takes overcoming challenges together. That was the first lesson. The second thing that struck me was this: leadership light in the darkness. Now, that's the title I'm giving it for myself: leadership light in the darkness. Within space, objects either produce light or they reflect light. That's it. Stars produce light. Planets, meteorites, satellites, any other objects reflect light. As I think about as a leader, we're doing both of those things all the time. As leaders, we should be producing light, living our values, our beliefs, our goals, trying to have an impact on the people around us and a positive influence. So we're producing light. And we're also reflecting light from the people who are producing light around us. The people who are around us, we see, we absorb, we experience their influence on us. And then as we begin to think about that reciprocation of the relationship, if we're producing light and reflecting light of the people around us, they're producing light and hopefully reflecting positive light around us, then that helps us grow as leaders, which then reminds me of the power of the amazing relationships that I have in my life. My family heritage, my wife, my children, my friends, the great people I get to work with, and that reciprocation of relationships that helps us all grow together as more impactful leaders of ourselves and others. That was the second lesson that I took from this. The third lesson that I took personally was just a deeper, stronger faith. I think about that perspective of looking at the Earth out the window of a spacecraft as a small object suspended in the blackness. That object is moving and rotating and in position beyond anything that we can imagine. What strengthens my faith is if the creator of our universe can put those stars and planets into order and make that happen, which is way beyond my comprehension, I certainly can put my trust and faith in a creator that knows way more than I do, which allows me to trust and surrender my life to this bigger, greater God of the universe. Those are the 3 lessons that I took from this. Here's the try it out section. It's pretty simple. It's 1, taking this event and thinking about it. Just reflect on it. What struck you? What stood out to you? What are your thoughts about it? And then number 2, identify how does this help you be a more effective leader? And then if you get the opportunity, share that with someone else. I can imagine this being done as a team activity as well. You could bring your team together, show them a video of the press conference or some other video of this event, have your team reflect on the event itself, share what they observed, what they saw, and then simply ask the question, how does this event help you be a more effective leader? Or how can this event help us be a more effective team? There's the try it out section. Here's your quote of the week. This comes directly from Jeremy Hansen, the mission specialist on this trip to the moon and back. He said these words: "In the silence of deep space, these astronauts carry the hopes, dreams, and curiosities of every person on Earth." Thank you again for listening to the Toddcast, your weekly leadership nudge. Next week, I'll be back. We'll talk about the High Five Leadership Framework, and we're going to focus on commitments, changing commitments, which is part 2 of the commitments portion of that series. I pray that you have time to reflect today, to think about those things that are important in your life, and be able to be grateful for them. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.